afternoon, everyone, or good morning in some cases. My name is Nicole Russo, and I'll be your moderator for today, and I'm a member of the Site Education team. I'd like to welcome you to the Site 2016 Global Education Week. Today's webinar is Site and ECPAT, Turning Awareness into Action. Before we begin, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping tips. Please note that all audio members are muted. This ensures high audio quality and clarity for the speakers. We encourage questions, and we'll have a question and answer portion at the conclusion of today's presentation. You can submit a question at any time by simply typing into the question box located on your toolbar. And now I'd like to hand it over to Julie Johnson, Director of Site and Media Relations.
Greetings, and thank you for joining us for the first Site Global Education Week webinar. As most of you know, in 2015, Site pledged its support of ECPAT's efforts to end human trafficking in travel and tourism by informing and educating our members about this critical issue. This year, our goal is to turn awareness into action by providing our chapters and members practical tools and information that they can use to create their own local or regional initiatives to support ECPAT's efforts and provide assistance to the victims of human trafficking. Today, I would like to start by first of all introducing our presenters. We're very pleased to have today with us Rhonda Brewer, Site and Media Task President and Vice President of Sales of Merit's Travel Company. With more than 24 years of travel operations experience, Rhonda serves as Merit's Travel's Vice President of Sales, focusing on global companies and strategic planning. She helps lead the company's global sales effort, maintains and extends sales with existing customers and new customers, and works with them to preserve the local culture while delivering a consistent and engaging experience. Merit has been a member of the Code of Conduct for Protection of Children from Sexual Exploitation in Travel and Tourism since 2013. As Site President in 2015, it was under Rhonda's leadership that Site pledged its commitment to support ECPAT's efforts to help end human trafficking. We were hoping to have Anna Maria Ruffini with us today, who is the Site VP of Finance and CEO of Events In and Out SRL in Rome, Italy. Unfortunately, Anna Maria has had some flight difficulties and may be joining us later in the day, but I do want you to know that she did help us put together this presentation and is very, very active in Site support of ECPAT in the effort to end human trafficking. Daryl Keywood is also joining us today all the way from South Africa, and in fact he was just sharing with us that he is currently operating a trip for a group of Brazilians in Cape Town. So Daryl, thank you so much for joining us. Daryl is the Managing Director and CEO of Walters DMC and Destination Business Solutions, headquarters in Johannesburg, South Africa. He is a member of the Site Board of Directors and served as President of Site South Africa from 2009 to 2012. His company has been recognized by Site, winning 3 coveted Crystal Awards for outstanding contributions to CSR as part of an incentive program. Daryl is an avid cyclist, and this year is personally committed to raise $1,000 to fund the fight against human trafficking and the exploitation of children for sexual abuse. At Walters, each employee has completed online training to ensure that they are aware of the signs and can act should they suspect that someone is in a vulnerable situation. Also joining us today is Michelle Gelbert, Director of Private Sector Engagement for ECPAT USA. Michelle has been very involved with Site and Site's efforts to support ECPAT both in the U.S. and internationally. Michelle leads the program development strategy for ECPAT USA's private sector work. As Director of Private Sector Engagement, she advises companies on corporate social responsibility efforts to protect children from trafficking. This includes expert consultation for corporate policy development programs, training, and workshops. In addition, she is frequently asked to provide input during discussions between socially responsible investors and corporations. Michelle, thank you very much for joining us today, and thank you for all of the work you have done with Site to help us become actively involved in ECPAT's efforts. Today, our learning outcomes are to provide an update on the Site ECPAT partnership and learn what you can do to support ECPAT's efforts. Define immediate actions you can take to help stop human trafficking, encourage companies to become members of the code, and to introduce the CSR Activities and Resource Guide for chapters to use to create local and regional initiatives to support trafficking victims. I would now like to turn the presentation over to Rhonda. Rhonda?
Thank you, Julie. So prior to the start of my presidency, I had been going to Belize for some mission work, and part of that mission work was to provide young boys and girls school scholarships to attend higher education. Around this time, mayors actually started raising awareness of human trafficking and signed the code, which helped educate just how big the issue really was. So, you know, I started thinking, and I received some really disturbing emails from our mission that one of the girls that received our scholarship declined because she was actually sold into marriage. So I had to read the email several times to make sure I was really understanding it correctly. And so I contacted them immediately and educated them that really what was happening here was human trafficking and that we needed to educate the village and really stop what was happening in the village. This had such a tremendous impact on me that I brought it to our global board and talked about it for a while, and it was interesting discussions because I think, you know, from a global perspective, we don't realize that it's actually happening right here in the United States, but it's actually such a big global issue. So we talked to everybody, and everybody was completely on board that this could really be our CSR global heartbeat of what site was going to be able to do. So we actually signed the Code of Conduct for the Protection of Children from Sexual Exploitation in Travel and Tourism at Site Night last year in Frankfurt. And our objective in 2015 was to provide information and education to site members about this critical issue and encourage their support of ECPAT's efforts around the globe. So this year, as Julie mentioned, our goal is to turn awareness into action by providing our chapters and members practical tools and information that they can use to create their own local or regional initiatives to support ECPAT's efforts and provide assistance to the victims of human trafficking. Next page, please. As I'm sure you've heard me say, human trafficking is a global problem. It happens here in the U.S. and around the world at this very moment, yet so many people are unaware. It is swept under the rug and hidden in the corner because if people don't know, they don't care. But put simply, human trafficking is a fundamental violation of human rights and a contemporary form of slavery. It has devastating and often irreversible effects on victims who suffer emotional, psychological, and physical abuse and mistreatment. Human trafficking is the third largest crime in the world, generating over $15 billion US, and nearly 80% of human trafficking worldwide is for sexual exploitation. A UN global study on violence against children estimates 150 million girls and 73 million boys under the age of 18 experience sexual exploitation or other forms of sexual violence. The average age of victims is 11 in the developing world and 13 in Western countries. All countries have some form of human trafficking taking place at any given moment, though there are some countries where trafficking is far more frequent and accepted. Research has indicated that the UN knows of victims from 127 countries and their exploitation in 137. Clearly a global problem. Next, please. Across America and the world, children are being commercially sexually exploited. Thousands of children, if not tens of thousands, are trafficked into the U.S. each year for sex and labor. Traffickers are actively seeking out fresh girls and boys to feed the sex industry's demand for more and more young and attractive objects to sell. Children are easier to coerce and control than adults, and many factors in a child's youth can make her or him vulnerable to traffickers. So foster care youth often do have a caring adult helping to protect them from predators, whether at a shopping mall or the internet. Runaway and homeless youth are vulnerable to an adult offering an exchange of sex for a place to sleep tonight, a meal, or even cash. Sexually abused children are especially vulnerable. As one pimp said, these girls have been raped so many times, well, it's my job to convince them that they might as well get paid for it. Crazy, right? Unfortunately, very few victims are identified and fewer still receive the help and services they need. Often when a child is discovered with a trafficker or a pimp or exploiter, John, the girl or boy is the one blamed. These children below the age at which they can legally consent to sex are then arrested by police officers and tried for solicitation by courts that view them as criminals, not victims. Meanwhile, the exploiters often go unpunished. So human trafficking is happening in hotels, and that's really why we needed to raise the awareness on this even more, because our industry, we're all in hotels. We have hoteliers that are part of our association, and we know that we can raise the awareness so that people know what to look for. So traffickers, buyers, victims all feel safer to be in the anonymous space as opposed to going to someone's home or apartment. Unless hotels implement training programs to identify suspicious, activities, this will continue to happen. Many people assume that the hotels used for sex trafficking of children are budget hotels or low-scale brands, but this is just not hotels near an airport. They're everywhere, and we actually recently just had a situation at a major brand hotel here in St. Louis where there was some human trafficking that was actually stopped. So it's happening in your neck of the woods. You just may not be aware of it. So all-scale brands are used by traffickers to make quick profit. In addition, airlines and buses are often used when victims are being moved around the country and being moved to other countries. Michelle?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. So I just want to talk about why we decided to get involved with this. So my organization is called ECPAT USA, and we are the U.S. branch of an international organization, and we work to protect children from sexual exploitation. And we are an offshoot of ECPAT International, which is a global network of organizations, and we all work together to eliminate this problem. And so we do that from a different fronts. We're an advocacy organization, and we work on the international and national level. And our goal is that every child everywhere grows up free from sexual exploitation. And we work in a collaborative method. So back when we were seeing this issue of sexual exploitation of children happening in tourism in developing countries, expat groups got together with the travel industry because the industry was saying, we want to know how to fight this. And we had to do that in a way that worked for the industry. So we got together and we developed some mechanisms to help the tourism industry address this issue, which is on the next slide. And that is where we came up with the code. So the code is a set of guidelines that travel companies can implement, and it helps them put in place different policies and programs to address the issue. We'll go over what those steps look like in a couple of slides, but it's really a joint venture between the private sector and ECPAT. It is a true public-private partnership. The mission of the code is to provide awareness, tools, and to support to the tourism industry, and each company implements the code differently. The steps are implemented in a way that fits each company's corporate culture and structure. As you can imagine, so SITE is a member of the code, but so is MERITS, and SITE and MERITS have different objectives for what they're going to do with the code. And what I thought, Rhonda actually mentioned that, I thought that was really interesting. She was talking about how SITE's first objective was to raise awareness, and now we're moving towards action. And I think that's a really great thing to point out, is that if a company has an objective every year, they can frame their implementation of the steps to that objective. So the code is in 66 countries. It's really widespread now. And what happens when a company joins the code is they get some benefits. So it's a human rights issue. So of course, you know, companies that work on a human rights framework are going to be really interested in doing this. SITE and MERITS and Walters join the code because this is the right thing for their business to do. They want to keep children safe. So there's benefits to a business. The companies that join the code are also known as a responsible brand. So today, more than ever, consumers believe this is an important issue. It is included in RFP language often, and companies want to travel with those who are joining the code. And it also mitigates risk. So companies are protected should something happen on a property. And then now we're looking on the slide at the steps of the code. So when an organization joins the code, they commit to taking 6 essential steps to help protect children. These are the 6 criteria of the code. And the team, the code team and the local code representative in each company supports and guides each company with best practices. That's what ECPAT USA does in the United States, which is why we work with companies like MERITS and SITE to implement the code. So on the next slide, we see actually a really great idea of how to turn awareness into action, which was done by Anna Maria's company and also with a trade chapter. And what's great is that each group can work with local expat offices, and what they did was they had communication and worked with an advertising agency to develop material for the local chapter. You know, not all groups have the budget to do that kind of work, so they worked together and fundraised for the expat group and implemented work on the local level. So now, what can you do about this? So I think it's, you know, it's kind of an abstract issue, it's a big issue, but each company, each person can take action to help stop human trafficking. Companies can become a member of the code. You can educate your staff, you can educate suppliers, you can educate customers about this issue. You can seek out and work with organizations in your region, those expat affiliates or members of the code. On the policy level, companies can put a zero tolerance policy in contracts. They can put it in their RFP language. And then just today, what you can do is you can go on social media and talk about this issue. The more aware we are, the more we can fight it. And then last is, you know, just be aware when you travel. We have information on our website and also on sites' websites about the signs, which are on this slide in front of you. And you can report suspicious activity when you're traveling. If you're at the airport, you can go straight to Homeland Security. You can go straight to security and report it, or go to the front desk and report something. Call down to let them know what you're seeing. Here's some of the indicators. I'll just mention some that are, you know, maybe a little more obvious is requests for rooms with access to exits in a hotel, or someone who's carrying all the identification or money of the people around them. If you're staying in a hotel room and you hear the room next door opening and closing regularly, that's an indicator. And then in flight, if a trafficker is speaking for a victim or doesn't let a trafficker walk freely through the cabin, you can see those indicators, and coupled together, they might be trafficking. This is actually often included in training presentations or presentations for customers or companies, and one of our partners hosted a training event for customers, and one of the attendees was heading home, she actually saw the indicators in the airport on the way home. What she did was what she learned in her session. So she reported her suspicions to someone who was working there, and they reported it to the proper authorities. So this actual training was able to provide a pathway towards freedom for a victim of trafficking. So right now you're looking at some of those indicators, and if you see it, report it. We're also going to go over some of the reporting and resources internationally, but if you're traveling in the United States, just go straight to Homeland Security, like I said, at an airport. Go straight to security and report it. And then if you're in a hotel, just report it to the front desk, and they'll follow their procedures. The good thing about traveling with a company that's a member of the code is you'll know that they have a procedure to respond to this, and they'll respond to it right away. So now, turning awareness into action. So I worked really closely with Julie and other members of the site team, and we were trying to figure out how does site partner with ECPAT to try to facilitate real action for the chapters on the ground level. So what we did was we developed a guide and PowerPoint presentation that chapters can use, and it creates different CSR activities at the local level and regional level, which can support victims and fundraise for this cause. Here's what your guide will contain. So, you know, it's a pretty comprehensive guide. It outlines procedures. It has really great templates to create a variety of educational and CSR activities. What you'll find is that the work is a little bit different at each region and with each expat group you work with. So you can do a session from an hour, you can have a full day session, you can educate site members, suppliers, customers, and you can create opportunities to fundraise for the cause. The site also has instructions on how to hold what I think is really cool. It's the first of its kind. It's a packing session to collect and donate personal care items to support real victims of trafficking. And those goods can go directly to help the victims and their recovery. So this is a really great on-the-ground level. And there's also resources on the topic in general. And there's a guide on, there's going to be a guide on CITE's website which will have resources regionally for each chapter, whether you're in the United States or you're not. And then also what's really great about being partnered with the ECPAT network is that there's chapter resources that will include a link to our website, to ECPAT International's website, and chapters can go and search for their nearest ECPAT affiliate. So you don't have to wonder, who do I partner with? All ECPAT groups are vetted, and they're really familiar with the work in their region, especially working with the tourism industry. So you can search the nearest service provider, the nearest ECPAT group to be a speaker at your chapter meetings, and the webpage will bring you right to a map, and then you'll be able to select your country, and here's the list of the countries where ECPAT is actually very active. So you can ask me any questions about that a little later, and I'm going to pass it off to Daryl to talk about really awesome action, turning awareness into action that he's doing.
Thanks, Michelle. Next slide, please. So we've got a bit of how-to, I think, coming up. In other words, we all want to make a difference, and as Rhonda and Michelle have highlighted, you know, when one feels committed, you need to get involved. So we're going to demonstrate how. And one of several aspects, you know, in tackling creating awareness is to work through the chapters. And what CITE has so far achieved with 3 chapters, CITE Texas put out the challenge, essentially challenging other CITE chapters to match its $500 donation to ECPAT, and that was accepted by CITE Southeast and CITE SoCal. So the CITE chapter challenge is out there, and if you're involved in your chapter leadership, perhaps, you know, suggest that when you have your next meeting as a method of raising awareness and having fun. If you know people in other chapters, it works quite well. If we move on. The other option, of course, is purely to see how we can raise funds. And we've established a link through CITES for any direct donations. So, for instance, channeling chapter challenge funds, that can be done essentially online now. And then going back to the slide which Michelle highlighted, all the global resources. This is not a US-centric or North American-centric organization. ECPAT is truly global, and CITE is truly global. So by looking through the list, it's something that I started doing when I wanted to get involved, and that's find a local, it may not be an ECPAT office, it may be an affiliate, a local, you know, in our country, in South Africa, there's a partnership with an organization called Child Welfare, and I found other organizations that, you know, through interactions with them that aren't even listed on the ECPAT website that may be able to assist with education and certain other areas. So the next slide, please. I'd sort of thought personally, what can I do? And it's actually quite fun to try and come up with different ways to create awareness. So I started, I happened to cycle, and that's a photograph of me riding in our Cape Cycle Tour about 6 or 8 weeks ago in my ECPAT jersey. And I started through ECPAT, who kindly provided a CrowdRise page to create some awareness. And then I basically just said, I will raise $1,000 for ECPAT this year. I'm about a quarter of a way into that, so anyone's welcome who feels they want to challenge me. It's something I've done a few times. I've ridden in pink for breast cancer, and I've run in a purple Speedo for awareness for testicular cancer for men. So, you know, I just wanted to see how I could personally make a difference, and I've had a great response. One of the hotel chains has invited me to a poker evening, and we'll hopefully get that together in May, and they're going to donate the proceeds of that to my CrowdRise page. So, you know, you can do it on a chapter level, a company level. Personal level, there are all sorts of ways to get involved and hopefully raise some funds and help further awareness of this issue and promote ECPAT and the good work that they do. If we move on, we're wanting to just highlight that for those who really are interested, and I would really like to do this at some point. Last year there was a trip to Thailand, and this year there is a journey to Colombia and another journey to Thailand, which is really about joining other people who have the same passion that want to make a difference and going and learning from other people on the ground and finding out what's happening. So ECPAT does journeys at least a couple a year, and you know, if that's something that interests you, then I'm sure if you get hold of Michelle, she'll put you in contact with who's organizing one of the future journeys. And a great group of people, I'm sure. Not only did they learn a lot, but had a lot of fun joining together as they all had the same interests at heart. And moving forward, we have a lot of resource now coming through sites, and Michelle did highlight some of what's almost there and already there. And I believe later this month we'll have the CSR guide and chapter resource available for download. So keep an eye out, and site will communicate when that's available. And then we're also doing some training at IMEX in Frankfurt next week. There's the chapter leader meeting, and ECPAT will form a part of that. And I believe Anna Maria and I will both be speaking and doing a little bit of education during the chapter leader meeting. And then the second or third last slide. So as Michelle said, you've got examples and signs out there that you don't know what to do. There are links. There's all of those links online that you can report stuff to. The training that we've gone through in my own company, so far it's been online. We're moving to doing some actual physical in the office training with one of the ECPAT affiliates in the month of April. But if you're just not sure what to do, there are avenues that one can report any suspicious activity to. So a list of those appears on this slide, and the presentation will be shared afterwards, and just save them, keep them handy in case you need them. In my own company, I think we're kind of the 6 steps, we're sort of three and a half way through implementing them. Hopefully one day you'll see my company's name on ECPAT's website, as you already see sites, as you already see merits. So we're working our way through the 6 steps, and companies that do complete and implement those steps, you kind of elevate it, not just having signed the code of conduct, but having completely gone through the process, and then you'll be highlighted on the ECPAT website. And I think that's, for me, everything. If Michelle could just go to the wrap-up slide, I'll hand over to you, Michelle.
Wrap up for us. Hi everyone, thank you for today's presentation. As a reminder to our attendees, if you have any questions at this time, please feel free to submit them via the question and answer box on your toolbar. So simply just type in a question. So we'll wait a few minutes to see if we get anything in. All right, I believe that is all the questions that we do have at this time. As a reminder to folks on the line, if you do have any further questions, feel free to reach out to Michelle, or you can reach out to Julie at jjohnson@siteglobal.com. Well, thank you, Daryl, Rhonda, Julie, and Michelle for joining us today. Once again, the recording from today's presentation will be on the website later this afternoon. Everyone take care and have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.